The founder of ZooCheck, talks about this being seen as a world situation. We want world wildlife centres where animals can be protected in their natural environment. And I think that is the direction in which we should move. And I do think also as another factor, people are getting concerned about how we treat our animals. We slaughter them, we use them for experimentation, for pharmaceuticals, we shoot them in use them in chemical warfare laboratories and so on. And I don't think a society can be civilized unless it does treat the animal kingdom as joint inheritors of the planet with us. It may sound rather romantic, but it is really true. We all inhabit the planet. And therefore, to that extent, we ought to see that the wildlife is able to enjoy some survival in the wilderness or whatever, and also proper scientific study of what it does.
Thank you very much. Stephen Fry.
Yeah, yes, I broadly agree. I think our grandchildren will find it hard to believe that we once went to look at animals in cages. I think they'll think we were quite odd, just as we might look at our great-great-grandparents and wonder that they could have shares in sugar plantations that had slaves. You know, it's baffling. I think it will be baffling to future generations that we did it, and I think we are moving away from it. But I don't think it's quite the same as art. The point about funding art is it's something we actually do in this country. We make it. I mean, we can collect animals from around the world as much as we please, but any country can do that. Art is something we make, and there's very little else we make now in this country. 20% of our manufacturing capacity has been eroded in the last 10 years, and we have a government that's not interested in making things, but making money. And if you go to a Greek taverna on holiday, the table will be made in Denmark, the cutlery will be made in France, the glassware in West Germany, but there is a chance the music coming out on the tannoy will be British in some way. We have a lively cultural identity, very lively, and that is something we desperately need to protect. And rather as Grand Prix racing may seem irrelevant to the end-user motorist, actually these things are top-down. If we have a thriving artistic community at what seem the weird levels of ballet and opera and abstract art that not many people apparently understand, it actually seems to enrich the entire nation and allow for things that are more popular culture, that some might call junk culture, and some might just call popular culture. But I think it is one of the very few things we manage to do well, is to use our language artistically, to play music, to paint, sculpt, dance, and let's, for goodness sake, protect that while we can.
David Mellor.
Well, I'm an unashamed supporter of government funding of the arts, and did my best when I was arts minister to obtain, and indeed, dare I say, succeeded in obtaining substantial extra funding for the arts. I still think that there will always be a case for more. I personally agree that we have a record second to none in the creative arts, and I don't mind a lot of people wanting more money. I think that's a perfectly valid argument, and I, for one, don't resent that at all. Indeed, I glory in the fact that we have such a diversity of arts in this country today. It's worth bearing in mind, by the way, because some people are always tempted to look back to a golden age, that when Jenny Lee was arts minister, and of course is well remembered, and rightly so, someone had to start somewhere. We're now spending in real terms 3 times as much on the arts as was done then, and a great deal more in real terms than was done 10 years ago.
What about the zoo?
But there's always a case for more. Now I'll come to the zoo. I share actually an unusual distinction with Mr. Michael Heseltine. We are both of us fellows of the Zoological Society of London, and I've always enjoyed London Zoo, and I very much regret that it finds itself in the situation in which it does. It was given £10 million by the government in 1988, and that was part of a sort of full and final settlement for the zoo to sort itself out.
That is final.
That is the position, that it's a full and final settlement. I personally think that the zoo is a remarkable place. I constantly enjoy going there with my children. I also think it has does invaluable scientific work. One of the most exciting mornings of my life actually was sitting, watching them operating, doing a most delicate operation on one of the pandas, showing a great deal of care. And there's a tremendous amount of work that's been done on research that is invaluable, and the idea of the zoo as being outmoded may well be wrong.
But no more money unless it can find it.
The thing is that £10 million is a lot of money for one limited institution. And I personally think that the zoo has got, and is now doing, to be fair to it, to find ways in which it can continue by stimulating a wider interest, and perhaps in truth by getting some other people in who might in fact be able to manage it more effectively. But I certainly, for one, will be very sad if London Zoo ceases, because it's given me an enormous amount of pleasure, and I think it does a tremendous amount of good work, actually.
Well, we've got only a minute left, or less than that. Let's hear from Darren Swable about what he thinks.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with the panel saying with regards to the zoo, saying the case of behind bars in the future, no one no one would believe that we would see it and so on. But I still feel it's disturbing to the fact that so many animals will be killed if London Zoo is closed.
None need be killed. None need to be killed. And none should be killed.
And let's have a view from the gentleman there.
The cost of land in central London is so high, would it not perhaps be better so that we could keep the zoo going if we were to move it to, say, Scotland or Wales or Northern England?
No.
It would also help British Rails.
Well, is there one or two further points I can take? Gentleman up there.
I think Stephen Fry made a very good point in that the arts are a major contributor to our balance of payments. And I think it would be most unfortunate if the juxtaposition which was taken in the question should be taken as the government as the basis for making funding decisions, because all these leisure attractions contribute to Britain's international standing. It's very important that the government should make a renewed commitment to all of those.
Well, that you have the last word, because that concludes tonight's question time, on which you heard the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, David Mellor, responding to criticisms of the Prime Minister's strength of character, say the idea that John Major is a wimp is a nonsense, and we should get out of these feeble and stupid terms. Well, Question Time is back as usual next week at 10:10 on BBC One, when the panel will include MPs Cyril Smith, Brian Gould, and two others making the news. Until then, thank you for watching, and to you all, a very good night.